First of all, I thank Dr. Rajesh Kannan for inviting me, for giving me this opportunity. So, in today's talk, I'll be just giving some insight into the topic graphs determined by their spectrum. So, let me just present my slide. Whether it is visible?
Yes, the screen is visible. Yeah.
So, the topic that I would like to discuss is some graphs that are determined by their spectrum. So before looking into the actually what it is, what the topic is meant to be, we first look into some definitions and some prerequisites. So therefore, it could be useful to understand the results that we are going to discuss here. So first of all, graphs considered here are simple and undirected. So no directed edges are considered. So for a graph G of a range with vertex set V1, V2, and so on Vn, and x set denoted by E of G, so we denote the degree sequence by D1, D2, D3, and so on Dn in the decreasing order, where D1 I mean to say the degree of the vertex V1. So in general, Di stands for the degree of the vertex Vi. So note that there are various matrices associated with the graph. So here we will be discussing only three important matrices. So one is the adjacency matrix. So you know that it is a symmetric matrix whose entries are 0 or 1. So its ij entry is 1 if there is an edge between the vertex Vi and Vj, and it is 0 otherwise. So it's a symmetric matrix and all its eigenvalues are real. So, and also we know what is meant by a degree diagonal matrix. It simply stands for a diagonal matrix with its diagonal entries as D1, D2, and so on Dn. So, and also the Laplacian matrix. So, it is defined to be the degree diagonal matrix minus the adjacency matrix. And the signless Laplacian matrix, it is defined to be the degree diagonal matrix plus the adjacency matrix. So, we denote the spectrum of the adjacency matrix throughout this presentation. We denote it by lambda 1, lambda 2, and so on, lambda n. So, in the decreasing order. And also, we denote the Laplacian spectrum by mu1, mu2, and so on, mu n. So, you all know that this Laplacian eigenvalue is 0. And the signless Laplacian spectrum, we denote it by gamma 1, gamma 2, and so on, gamma n. So first, I need to know what is meant by when you are going to say that two graphs are co-spectral. So with respect to the adjacency matrix. So two graphs, they are said to be adjacencies co-spectral or simply co-spectral if they share the same adjacency spectrum. That means if they have the same adjacency spectrum. So one of the simplest example for adjacency co-spectral graph is as shown in the figure. So these two graphs, so they are non-isomorphic, but still they are co-spectral. So with adjacency spectrum, 2 zeros minus 2. And coming to what is meant by Laplacian co-spectral graphs, so the definition is the similar to the adjacency co-spectral graph. So we say that two graphs are L co-spectral if they share the same Laplacian spectrum. So, a simple example for Laplacian co-spectral graphs would be the graphs shown in figure 2. So, these two graphs, they are non-isomorphic, but still they share the same Laplacian spectrum. And also, in similar lines, we define what is meant by signless Laplacian co-spectral graphs, that is what is meant by Q co-spectral graphs. So if you look into the smallest example, a simple example of signless Laplacian co-spectral graph, it will be as shown in the figure 3. So these two graphs, note that one is disconnected and another is connected, but still you can note that they share the same signless Laplacian spectrum. So moreover, note that the graphs that are presented in figure 1, figure 2 and figure 3. So they are co-spectral graphs of smallest order possible. So that means to say that if you consider any graphs less than this number of vertices, for example, if you consider any graphs less than 6 number of vertices with respect to the adjacency spectrum, so they don't have any co-spectral mate. So likewise, if you consider any graphs less than 6 number of vertices, so they do not have any L co-spectral mate. So similarly, with respect to the Salas-Laplacian graphs, Salas-Laplacian co-spectral graphs. So now what is meant by saying that graph is determined by the spectrum? Or more precisely, so when you are going to say that a graph is determined by the adjacency spectrum, we say that a graph G is determined by the adjacency spectrum if G has no co-spectral mate up to isomorphism. If it doesn't share the adjacency spectrum, then we call that graph to be determined by the adjacency spectrum. So similarly, graph determined by the Laplacian spectrum, we define it to be the graph which do not share its Laplacian spectrum with any other non-isomorphic graphs. So likewise, we also define what's meant by DQS. DQS stands for graphs determined by the Salas-Laplacian spectrum. So a graph G is said to be determined by the Salas-Laplacian spectrum if G has no Q co-spectral mate up to isomorphism. So now, what's the question? You can note that this I already told you. So if you look into the definitions of DAS, DLS, and DQS, and if you look into these figures, figure 1, 2, and 3, so which indeed illustrates, which indeed gives you the co-spectral graphs of smallest order. So from this, you can decide, you can straight away, you can say that graphs having less than 5 vertices are determined by the adjacency spectrum. Graphs having less than 6 vertices are determined by the Laplacian spectrum, and graphs having less than 4 vertices are determined by the Salas-Laplacian spectrum. So DS means they do not share their adjacency spectrum. DLS means they do not share their Laplacian spectrum. DQS means they do not share their Salas-Laplacian spectrum with any other non-isomorphic graphs. Now, which graphs are determined by their spectrum? So this is actually the question posed by Gunther and Primas in the year 1956. Or in other words, you can restate the question as which graphs doesn't have a co-spectral mate up to isomorphism. So the motivation for this question, it comes from chemistry, more precisely from the Akalcheri. And in the year 2003, this question was again raised by Dam and Amos, and they indeed gave a survey of partial answers to the question. Since then, after 2003, when these papers were published for this, so the problem was considered by many mathematicians, and in recent years, several papers on this problem have been published. So, for developments on this problem with respect to adjacency spectrum, Laplacian spectrum, and Salas-Laplacian spectrum, one may refer to these two excellent survey articles by Dam and Amos. So the first one, it is published in the year 2003, and second one, it is published in the year 2009, and the articles is as follows. So if you want to know what are the developments on this problem, so you can refer to these survey articles. So they are given all the information with respect to this problem. with respect to the adjacency matrix, Laplacian matrix, and Sandler's Laplacian matrix. So here I'm just listing out some few lemmas which are very useful in the study of graphs that are determined by the spectrum. So one of the very useful and powerful lemma, the powerful tool used in the study of graphs, the study of characterization of graphs with respect to the spectrum. So with respect to adjacency, Sandler's Laplacian spectrum is the following. So the lemma, it tells you that from the adjacency matrix, the Laplacian matrix, and from the Sandler's Laplacian matrix, one can deduce the following information about the graphs. Number one, so if you know the adjacency spectrum, Laplacian spectrum, and the Sandler's Laplacian spectrum, we can deduce the number of vertices in the graph. We can also deduce the number of edges, and also we can deduce whether G is regular or not. So given this adjacency spectrum of a graph, so you can determine whether G is regular or not. We can determine that what the last line in it tells you. So this is because you know that the largest eigenvalue, that is lambda 1, it is always greater than or equal to 2n by n. So why one can determine whether G is regular or not from the adjacency matrix, from the adjacency spectrum, is because you can note that the largest eigenvalue is always greater than or equal to 2 times of the edges divided by n, the total number of vertices. And the equality holds if and only if G is regular. So using this fact, we can easily deduce that from the adjacency spectrum, we can determine whether G is regular or not. And the fact that we can determine whether G is regular from the Laplacian spectrum and the Sandler's Laplacian spectrum. So it follows from the fact that we can determine the number of edges, and also we can determine the sum of squares of the degrees. So using these two facts, we can easily deduce that the regularity of a graph can be deduced from the Laplacian spectrum and Sandler's Laplacian spectrum. So also from the adjacency matrix, the following additional information also can be drawn. So one is we can count the number of closed walks of any fixed length. From the adjacency matrix, I mean to say the adjacency spectrum, we can count the number of closed walks of any fixed length, and also we can check whether the graph is bipartite or not. So the graph is bipartite or not with respect to the adjacency spectrum, it simply follows you need to just really check whether the spectrum is symmetric about the origin or not. So that is the if and only if condition for a bipartite, for a graph to be bipartite, right? So the second whether G is bipartite, it follows from the fact that you know that adjacency matrix, the adjacency spectrum, it has to be symmetric about the origin. And also from the Laplacian matrix, we can also deduce the information about the number of components in a graph, and also you can deduce the number of spanning trees. And also you can deduce the number of spanning trees. So the number of components is given by the number of zeros in the Laplacian spectrum. Number of zeros, I mean to say the multiplicity of the eigenvalue 0 in the Laplacian spectrum. That indeed gives you the number of components in the graph G. And you can also deduce the number of spanning trees. This fact actually follows from the matrix tree theorem. So it's about it gives you the number of spanning trees in terms of the Laplacian spectrum. So therefore, using the Laplacian spectrum, one can reduce the number of components, one can reduce the number of spanning trees in the graph. And also, additionally, using the Sandler's Laplacian matrix, we can also find out the number of bipartite components. So the multiplicity of 0 as Sandler's Laplacian eigenvalue gives you the information about the the number of bipartite components. The multiplicity of 0 is equal to the number of bipartite components in a graph G. So this lemma, it plays a very important role in study of spectral characterization of graphs with respect to adjacency spectrum, Sanger completion spectrum. And also in the study of graphs determined by the spectrum, so eigenvalue inequalities plays vital role. So one of the widely used eigenvalue inequalities are as follows. One is the interlacing theorem, the other one is the Wales inequality. So these two, if you choose any paper, I won't find any paper without these eigenvalue inequalities, theorem related to eigenvalue inequalities. So these are very powerful tool in study of spectral characterization. So interlacing theorem, Wales inequality, they are well known. So now let me just discuss which graphs are determined by the adjacency spectrum. So that means to say that which graphs which do not have the co-spectral made with respect to adjacency spectrum up to isomorphism. So one of the very simple graph which is determined by the adjacency spectrum, it is the complete graph K. Why? So because you know that from the adjacency spectrum, we can deduce whether G is regular. More precisely, we can deduce if G is regular, then we can determine of what degree it is. We can determine. Since complete graph K is regular of degree n minus 1, and you know that from the adjacency spectrum, we can actually check whether the graph is regular or not. So using the adjacency spectrum, we can see that the graph, it must be regular of degree n minus 1. So a graph regular of degree n minus 1, so that means to say that it must be a complete graph. Or in other words, we can also prove this result by simply, you know that from the adjacency spectrum, we can reduce the number of edges. So any graph which is co-spectral with K will have maximum edges, that is n into n minus 1 by 2. So therefore, it is obvious that G must be isomorphic to K, and hence the complete graph is determined by the adjacency spectrum. So likewise, the complete bipartite graph. So it is actually determined by the adjacency spectrum because we can note that from the adjacency spectrum one can reduce the regularity, and also one can check whether the graph is bipartite or not. So any graph co-spectral with the complete bipartite graph K m comma n. So it is understood that it must be bipartite, and since the regularity is also determined by the adjacency spectrum, it follows that graph G, it must be bipartite with degree n. So therefore, it must be isomorphic to the complete bipartite graph K m comma n. And also the cycle graph. The cycle graph, again, we can note that this again it is straightforward because from the adjacency spectrum we can get to know whether the graph G is regular or not. Any graph which shares the spectrum same as the cycle Cn, so it must be of regular of degree 2, and hence it must be a cycle. So these are the simple graphs which are determined by the adjacency spectrum. So now, see here I have mentioned that only this the regular bipartite graph, they are determined by adjacency spectrum. What about the complete bipartite graph? So note that in general they are not determined by the adjacency spectrum. So why? Because if you just look into this example, the complete bipartite graph K8, 2 and the graph, the union of graphs K4, 4 union 2 isolated vertices. So they indeed, you can check that they are adjacencies co-spectrum, but they are not isomorphic to each other. So that means to say that the complete bipartite graph K2, 8, it is not determined by the adjacency spectra. So more precisely, their spectrum it is 4 plus or minus 4, and rest all the entries are 0. So now we look into a theorem which indeed tells you that the path graph Pn is determined by the adjacency spectrum. So I need to show that any graph which is co-spectral with the path graph is isomorphic to the path graph Pn. So therefore I can conclude that the path graph Pn is determined by the adjacency spectrum. So how do I proceed is that the idea of the proof is that we just say that some graph G is adjacency co-spectral with Pn. So now first what I do is that I try to prove that G is a tree. I just try to prove that G is a tree, and then I'll be proving that tree G is of maximum degree 2. So therefore we can conclude that the G must be same as the path graph. So the proof goes as follows. So in order to prove that the path Pn is determined by the adjacency spectrum, first let me let that G is some graph which is adjacency co-spectral with the path graph Pn. So you know what is the adjacency spectrum of a path. So adjacency spectrum of a path, it is given by, so it is 2 times of cos j pi by n plus 1, where j running from 1 to n. From this, it is clear that the largest eigenvalue of the path graph is strictly less than 2. It is strictly less than 2 because cos function lies between the value of cos, it lies between -1 and 1. So therefore, you can easily note here that the largest eigenvalue of the path graph is strictly less than 2. Okay, now suppose G as I need to prove that G is a tree. So G is a tree or G is a forest. So that means I need to prove that G doesn't contain any cycle. So in order to prove that, first here the idea is to show that G is a forest, and then I need to show that it is not a forest, it is a tree, and I need to prove that that's a tree of maximum degree 2. So this is how the proof goes. So I started with by considering the spectrum of the path. So from the spectrum of the path, it's clear that the largest eigenvalue is strictly less than 2. So therefore, I need to show that G doesn't contain any cycle. So what happens if it contains a cycle? So see, if it contains a cycle, and you know that by interlacing theorem, if it contains, if it has an, if G has a subgraph, induced subgraph, then the largest eigenvalue of G is greater than the largest eigenvalue of the induced subgraph. So that indeed follows from the interlacing theorem. So if you consider any induced subgraph of a graph G, the largest eigenvalue of the induced subgraph is always lesser than or equal to the largest eigenvalue of the graph G. So this you can deduce it from the interlacing theorem. So now suppose if G has a cycle, then you know that its largest eigenvalue is 2. So therefore by interlacing theorem, so the largest eigenvalue it must be greater than or equal to 2, which is not true. So if G has a cycle, so therefore that means that it has got an induced cycle. So therefore by interlacing theorem, the largest eigenvalue of the cycle is lesser than or equal to the largest eigenvalue of the graph G. So that means to say that the largest eigenvalue of G, that is lambda 1 of G, is greater than or equal to 2. So which is not true, which is clear, very much clear, which is not true because the largest eigenvalue of G is strictly less than 2. So therefore G does not contain any cycle. So if G does not contain any cycle, therefore how does G looks like? So G must be a forest therefore, or G must be a union of trees. Further you can note that Pn consists of n minus 1 edges. Pn consists of n minus 1 edges. So if G happens to be a forest, since Pn is of consists of n minus 1 edges and G is co-spectral with Pn, it follows that G also must have n minus 1 edges. So because the edges, they are determined by the adjacency spectrum. So if G is a forest, then definitely the number of edges in G is strictly less than n minus 1. So therefore G, it has to be a tree. So G must be a tree because G has n minus 1 edges, because G has same number of edges as the path Pn. So if it's a path, if it's a forest, if it's a union of trees, then we are lost with this condition. So therefore G must be a tree. Okay, we are done with this. So somehow we showed that G is a tree. So now I need to show that this tree consists of maximum degree 2. So that's my claim. That is the maximum degree of the graph G is lesser than or equal to 2. So for that, so you can, I need to show that some subgraphs are forbidden. Some graphs are forbidden subgraphs of the path Pn. So if you consider the star graph K14, its largest eigenvalue is 2. So my claim is to show that the maximum degree of G is lesser than or equal to 2. So for that, so I just consider, suppose if it has a degree more than 4. If it has a degree more than 4, that means say that it has K14 as its induced subgraph. If the maximum degree of G is greater than or equal to 4, then it follows that it has the graph G as K1, 4 as its subgraph. So therefore, since the largest eigenvalue of K1, 4, that is the star graph, is 2, and the largest eigenvalue of G is strictly less than 2, it is clear that K1, 4 is not an induced subgraph of G. So because of interlacing chip. So if it is a subgraph of G, then by interlacing theorem, the largest eigenvalue of G, it has to be more than 2, more than or equal to 2. But since the largest eigenvalue of G is strictly less than 2, so it is clear that G doesn't contain a vertex of degree more than 4. So therefore, from this, it is clear that the maximum degree of T is lesser than or equal to 3. So now again, I need to show that it cannot have maximum degree 3. So that's my next step. So for this, suppose you know that if it has at least 2 vertices of degree 3. So the proof is divided into 2 pieces. If it has more than 2 number of vertices with degree 3, or if it has exactly 1 vertex of degree 3. So if G has 2 vertices of degree 3, then G must be one of the following subgraph. Then G must be the following subgraph. So then G must have the following graph as its subgraph. If G has 2, note that G is a tree. So if it has 2 vertices of degree 3, then it is clear that G must have this graph as its subgraph. So which is a special double star tree, which is with eigenvalue, with its largest eigenvalue as 2. Note that if it has at least 2 vertices of degree 3, then it is clearly that G has this graph as its subgraph. Again, this is not possible. Because we can see that this graph, this double star graph, is co-spectral with a cycle C4 and a path. So we can check that this graph is isomorphic, is co-spectral with the cycle C4 and the path. So therefore, it has got two acid eigenvalue because cycle has two acid eigenvalue, and this is Q co-spectral. This is co-spectral with a cycle and a path. So it has got again two acids largest eigenvalue. So therefore, again by interlacing theorem, so if G has two vertices of degree 3, so by interlacing theorem, we can prove that the largest eigenvalue of G is greater than or equal to 2, which is not true. So therefore, G must have one vertex of degree 3. G must have one vertex of degree 3. So now if G has one vertex of degree 3, so then we can see that G has this graph as its subgraph. G has this graph as its subgraph. Okay? As its subgraph, more precisely, G must be, it must look like this. A T-shaped tree. G must look like this. If G has one vertex of degree 3, since G is a tree, so your G must look like this. So now, what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that, so you know that from the adjacency spectrum, we can compute the number of closed blocks. We can compute the number of closed blocks. So therefore, here, if G has one vertex of degree 3, so we conclude that G must be isomorphic to this graph. And now if you just start counting the number of closed blocks of length 4 in this graph G, you can see that it is not same as the number of closed blocks in the path Pn. This is not true. See, number of closed blocks of length 4 in any graph is given by twice the number of edges plus 4 times the number of induced paths of length 2. So if you just count this number for this graph G and for the path Pn, you can easily check that they are not matching. They are not equal. So this cannot be true because the number of closed blocks is also determined by the adjacency spectrum. So therefore, again we landed at a contradiction. So thus, the maximum degree of the graph G must be equal to 2. So therefore, G is a tree on n vertices and maximum degree is 2. So that implies that your G must be a path graph. That implies that G must be a path graph. So it must be isomorphic to P. So this is how the path graph is going to be determined by the adjacency spectrum. So you need to block in any direction and you need to show that it is same as the given graph. So now it's also proved that the complement of the path graph is also determined by its adjacency spectrum. So this is because this is due to the do and ends. So one of the important tools in determining the graphs with respect to the adjacency spectra is counting the number of closed blocks. So this happens to be, this is one of the important tools. And in literature, you can also find some graphs with small spectral radius that are determined by the adjacency spectrum. So Smith, they all determine spectral radius graphs, connected graphs with spectral radius at most 2. So they have classified all graphs, all connected graphs with spectral radius at most 2. And this class includes the cycles Cn, path Pn, and the graph shown in the following figure. So these are all the graphs with spectral radius at most. These are the only graphs with spectral radius at most 2. So later, Shen et al. Actually proved that all connected graphs with spectral radius less than 2, they are determined by the adjacency spectrum. So the graphs with spectral radius less than 2. They indeed, it is the following. It is these the first two graphs, figure 1 and figure 2. So these are the set of graphs which are determined by, which have spectral radius less than 2, including the path graph. So Shen et al. They indeed proved that the graph, this BN, it is determined by the adjacency spectrum, and this set of finite graphs, they are also determined by the adjacency spectrum, and hence proving that all connected graphs with spectral radius less than 2 are determined by adjacency spectrum. So, and also among all connected graphs with spectral radius 2, so we can see that, so these are the figure 3 and figure 4. So these are the graphs with spectral radius 2, including the cycle graph. So among all these graphs, you can see that the cycle graph, the graph E7, the graph E8, so they are determined by the adjacency spectrum. So and hence we can state that all connected graphs with spectral radius at most 2 are determined by the adjacency spectrum, except the following graphs, except the following two graphs. So this the first graph indeed has spectral radius 2, and in this graph is indeed it is co-spectral with a cycle C4 and a path, union of cycle C4 and a path. Whereas the second graph is indeed it is co-spectral with the cycle C6 and an isolated vertex. So except these two graphs, all graphs with spectral radius at most 2, they are determined by the adjacency spectrum. And also the connected graphs with spectral radius between 2 and this number, almost close to 2, they are actually determined by the adjacency spectrum. So in literature, note that the answer to the question which graphs are determined by the spectrum, whether it might be adjacency spectrum, Laplacian, or sinuous Laplacian. The general answer to this question is I think, it's possible.
Rakshit?
Yes, sir?
I have a doubt. Can you go back the previous slide?
Yeah.
In the next one.
Oof. Yeah.
In the first figure,
Yeah.
no, I think next slide. You have shown two graphs, right?
Yeah.
Next slide.
Yeah.
Here. So these two graphs are co-spectral, right?
No, they are not co-spectral. They are not co-spectral. What I am saying is that except these two graphs, all graphs with spectral radius at most 2 are determined by the adjacency spectrum. The first graph, it is actually co-spectral with the cycle C4 union the path graph.
Okay.
The second graph is co-spectral with the cycle C6 union isolated vertex.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, can you please say what are the labels on the vertices?
Labels?
On the vertices, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2.
This indeed actually represents the eigenvectors. Eigenvectors corresponding to the eigenvalue 2.
Okay, thank you.
So, the general answer to the question which graphs are determined by the spectrum, it's very difficult one. So, what in literature we can find is that we can find some special graphs so that are studied for spectral characterization. So, among some special graphs that are determined by the adjacency spectrum, so some of them are the lollipop graph, so which looks like this. So, it's nothing but a cycle appended to a path. So it's nothing but you are just joining a vertex of a cycle to the end vertex of a path by an edge. So you obtain a lollipop graph. So very recently, it is in 2008. Actually, it is proved that this graph is determined by the adjacency spectrum. So actually earlier, the study of lollipop graph, it was carried out by Amos, Liu and Zhang. So where they actually proved that the lollipop graph with odd cycle is determined by the adjacency spectrum. So actually, and more general, it's also showed that any lollipop graph is determined by the adjacency spectrum. And also the kite graph is also determined by the adjacency spectrum. So kite graph means you are just joining the vertex of a complete graph to the end vertex of a path. To the end vertex of a path. So this indeed forms a kite graph. So it's also proved that this is determined by the adjacency spectrum. So earlier it was shown that the short kite graph, only one edge, it was actually proved to be determined by the adjacency spectrum. So later on it is generalized. In general, any kite graph is determined by the adjacency spectrum. So note that these results, they are nothing but the main results of a research article. So your the title would be that the lollipop graph is determined by the adjacency spectrum, or the kite graph is determined by the adjacency spectrum. They are not just a result; they are nothing but the main results of research articles. And also coming to the graph operations, the corner product of an odd cycle and an isolated vertex is also determined by the adjacency spectrum. And just to quickly run through the sand glass graph. So it looks like this. It's also determined by the adjacency spectrum. And also complete graph with the path with some path removed. That is Kn minus Pk. You are removing a path of length, path of order k from a complete graph, and it is also shown that this the remaining graph is also determined by the adjacency spectrum. So in 2014, it was conjectured that this graph, the complete graph obtained by removing a path, is determined by adjacency spectrum, and very recently the conjecture has been proved positively. So it's nothing but a graph obtained by removing a path of order k. Any path of, if you consider a complete graph, and if you remove any path of order k, the remaining graph is also determined by the adjacency spectrum. So earlier it was proved to be only for k, only for path of order 2 to 6, and very recently, I think in 2020, the authors they indeed proved that if you remove any path of any order lesser than or equal to n, so it is also determined by the adjacency spectrum. Okay, so there are many graphs actually the literature regarding the adjacency spectrum, which are determined by the adjacency spectrum. So it is vast. So you can hardly find more than 200 papers on this topic, graphs determined by the spectrum. So now we move on to graphs which are determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So note that entire quiz technique all indeed changes once you get switched over to the Laplacian spectrum. So completely different concept. So let me just go through the simple graphs that are determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So one is the complete graph. So again, because you know that from the Laplacian spectrum, we can find out the number of edges in a graph. So any graph co-spectral with complete graph, so it must have any 10 minus 1 by 2 number of edges. So therefore, it is clear that G is same as the complete graph A. And also the path graph Pn. Path graph Pn is also determined by the Laplacian spectrum. And the cycle Cn is also determined by the Laplacian spectrum. And also the complete bipartite graph, it's also determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So the cycle you can just prove it by making use of the fact that you can deduce whether the graph G is regular or not from the Laplacian spectrum. So if you make use of that, you can find that any graph isomorphic to the cycle, it must be regular of degree 2. So therefore, we can just simply say that it must be isomorphic to the cycle graph because the number of components is also determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So that's also important. Yeah. So now, one of the very important and very useful landmark in this study is the following. So if you know what is the spectrum of what is the Laplacian spectrum of a graph G, then using that you can also determine what is the Laplacian spectrum of its complement. You can also determine the Laplacian spectrum of its complement. Now this it follows from the fact that the Laplacian matrix is regular. and all ones is an eigenvector, and using that you can just easily do this lemma. So this, what is the importance of this lemma? It is the following. It tells you that a graph G is determined by the Laplacian spectrum if and only if its complement is determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So a graph G is determined by the Laplacian spectrum if and only if its complement is determined by the Laplacian spectrum. And this proposition indeed follows from this lemma. Indeed follows from this lemma, because from, if you know what is the spectrum of the Laplacian spectrum of the graph G, you can compute the Laplacian spectrum of its complement. So therefore, if a graph is determined by the Laplacian spectrum, then it follows that its complement is also determined by the Laplacian spectrum, and vice versa. So therefore, you can see easily you can see that the complement of a path graph is determined by the Laplacian spectrum. Why? Because the path graph is determined by the Laplacian spectrum, and if you use this proposition, it's clear that the complement graph is also determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So why you can prove that why this path graph is determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So you can note that from the Laplacian spectrum, we can determine the number of spanning trees, right? And also you can determine the number of components. So if G is any graph which is Laplacian co-spectral with the path Pn, then it must have only one spanning tree. It must have only one spanning tree. So therefore, that implies that it must be a tree. G must be a tree. And also you can see that also you can prove that its maximum degree is lesser than or equal to 2, and so it must be equal to the path graph. So this is how the proof goes. And using this proposition, so you can see that the complement of a cycle graph is also determined by the Laplacian spectrum. The complement of the bipartite graph Km, M is also determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So now I would like to just go through the proof of why the lollipop graph is determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So you know that lollipop graph, so it is nothing but it is obtained by just joining a vertex of a cycle to the end vertex of a path. So which are just it's as follows. So you are just joining a cycle Cn to the end vertex of a path. And end vertex of a path. So this is how it looks like. So why this lollipop graph is determined by the Laplacian spectrum? So that's our main aim here. So for this, I make use of this lemma, which indeed gives me some lower bound and upper bound, which indeed gives me some lower bound and upper bound to the largest Laplacian eigenvalue. So it tells you that so the largest Laplacian eigenvalue is more than the maximum degree plus 1, and it's also lesser than or equal to maximum of this quantity, where du stands for the degree, mu stands for the average degree of the vertex G. So now I need to prove that the lollipop graph is determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So H n comma p, so this refers to the lollipop graph, which is obtained by joining a edge between the cycle Cp to the end vertex of the path Pn minus p. You are joining a edge between a vertex of cycle Cp to an end vertex of the path p. So why this is determined by the Laplacian spectrum? So if you want to prove this, as usual, you just start with saying that some graph G is Laplacian co-spectral with the lollipop graph. So let me say that G is L co-spectral with the lollipop graph. So the idea of the proof is as follows. What I try to the proof is basically we need to show that G, the maximum degree of G is 3. And it has got only one vertex of degree 3, one vertex of degree 1, and the remaining all vertices, they are of degree 2. So if you prove this, then if you prove this and if you just try to draw the graph G, then it looks like a lollipop graph. So we are tackling with the degree sequence here. So we first try to prove that the maximum degree of G is lesser than or equal to 3 once if it is L co-spectral with the lollipop graph. So the proof goes as follows. So now if you make use of this lemma, you will be having some idea about the largest Laplacian eigenvalue of the lollipop graph. So lollipop graph, the maximum degree is 3. So therefore, a lower bound for the largest Laplacian eigenvalue is 4. And if you compute this sum, if you compute this quantity, maximum of all this quantity, so you will be getting it as 4.8. If you make use of this lemma, we can deduce that the largest eigenvalue of the largest Laplacian eigenvalue of the lollipop graph is lesser than or equal to 4.8. So therefore, since G is co-spectral with this lollipop graph, so the largest eigenvalue of G is also lesser than or equal to 4.8. So now, again, if you make use of this lower bound now, since the largest eigenvalue of the graph G is lesser than or equal to 4.8, it is clear that the maximum degree, that is delta of G, it cannot exceed 4. It cannot be equal to 4 or it cannot exceed 4. If it exceeds, then you are saying that mu1 is greater than or equal to 5. So, but from the upper bound, we got that mu1 is lesser than or equal to 4.8. From this, we can conclude that, so therefore, from the left inequality of the above lemma, we can conclude that the maximum degree of G is lesser than or equal to 3. Maximum degree of G is lesser than or equal to 3. Okay. So therefore, what are the possibilities now? So the possibilities are nothing but G can have a vertex of degree 1, it can have a vertex of degree 2, G can have a vertex of degree 3. It cannot have a vertex of degree 0 because the lollipop graph is connected. And so, and since the number of components is also determined by the Laplacian spectrum, G is also connected. So therefore, it can have degree at most 1, 2, and 3. Degree 1, 2, 3. So therefore, what I do is that I just say that x, y, and z be the number of vertices of G of degree 1, 2, and 3 respectively. That x, y, and z be the number of vertices of G of degree 1, 2, and 3. So now you know that from the Laplacian spectrum, you can find out the order of the graph, and also you can find out the number of edges, and also you can determine the sum of squares of degree. So these three parameters, they are actually determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So if you look into the lollipop graph, its order is n, the number of edges is n because it's a unique cyclic graph, and you can also compute the sum of squares of the degrees. It is 4 times of n minus 2 plus n plus 1 plus 9. So these quantities are also determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So therefore, so if you sum x plus y plus z, so it gives you the order of the graph G. So it must be same as n because order is determined by the Laplacian spectrum. And if you just sum x plus 2y plus 3y, this indeed gives you the 2 times the number of edges. So since the number of edges is determined by the Laplacian spectrum, so it must be equal to 2 times of n, the number of where n is the number of edges in the lollipop graph. And also x plus 4y plus 9, that is 1 square into x plus 2 square into y plus 3 square into y. So square, I'm summing the squares of the degrees. Okay, it must be equal to again this quantity because this quantity is again determined by the Laplacian spectrum. So you'll be getting this equation. So now if you just simply solve these three equations for x, y, and z, so you can see that x must be equal to 1, y must be equal to n minus 2, and z must be equal to 1. That means the number of vertices of degree x, degree 1, it must be 1. The number of vertices of degree 2, it must be n minus 2. And the number of vertices of degree 3, it is 1. Now if you just try to draw a graph with this degrees frequent, you can see that you will be again getting a lollipop graph itself. I'm not saying that it is exactly same as the lollipop graph H and P, but it must look like some lollipop graph itself. If you just try to draw the graph with these degrees frequent. So okay, therefore it's clear that it must look like a lollipop graph H n comma P. which is nothing but consisting of a cycle CQ. Now, if you consider, now if you just look into the number of spanning tree of a lollipop graph, so note that lollipop graph is nothing but it is obtained by joining a vertex of a cycle CP to a pendant vertex of a path Pn minus P. So therefore, if you count the number of spanning trees, it is equal to the order of the cycle Cp. It is equal to the order of cycle Cp. Because if you just look into the lollipop graph, so if you just keep on bringing the edges of the cycle, you will be getting a spanning tree. So therefore, the number of spanning tree in a lollipop graph is equal to the cycle, is equal to the length of the cycle or order of the cycle. So therefore, since the number of spanning tree is also determined by the Laplacian spectrum, so we must have P must be same as Q, because the number of spanning trees in H n comma Q is Q, and the number of spanning trees in N H n comma P is P. And since the number of spanning trees is determined by the Laplacian spectrum, we must have P same as Q. So that means your G must be isomorphic to H n comma P, the given lollipop graph. So this also implies that no two lollipop graphs are determined by the Laplacian spectrum. Right? So this completes the proof that the lollipop graph is determined by the Laplacian spectrum. And also in literature, you can find some special graphs that are characterized for Laplacian spectrum. For example, star-like trees, double star-like trees, multi-fan graphs, complete split graph, butterfly graphs, etc. So you can find plenty of papers on this topic also. So now I just quickly run through which graphs are DQS. So one of the important lemma here is that if a graph G is bipartite, then its Q spectrum is same as the Laplacian spectrum. If a graph G is bipartite, then there is no difference between the signless Laplacian and the Laplacian. So and also here you can see that the complete graph is determined by the Laplacian signless Laplacian spectrum. The path is also determined by the Laplacian spectrum. You can easily prove this. You know, to do this using the same technique. You can start with the spectrum of the path and again argue with the largest signless Laplacian eigenvalue. So to show that it is determined by the signless Laplacian spectrum. And also here in case of DQS, so in case of Laplacian spectrum, the main tool is that the number of spanning trees is determined by the Laplacian spectrum. Whereas in case of adjacency spectrum, the main tool is that the number of closed blocks. Whereas in case of signless Laplacian, so we need to put the degree sequence. That is most of the papers you can see they try to put the degree sequence and try to prove that they are determined by the signless Laplacian spectrum. And also some of the recent studies with respect to Laplacian and signless Laplacian is that so some disjoint unions of graphs they are studied for spectral characterization, and also some joint graphs they are also studied for spectral characterization. So there are many more papers on these topics. And some of the recent studies are which graphs are determined by the distance spectrum, and also which graphs are determined by the distance signless Laplacian spectrum and distance Laplacian spectrum. This is one of the recent studies, the second one. So whereas you can find 3 papers on this topic, graphs determined by the distance spectrum, and also you can also find only I think only 4 to 5 papers on this topic, graphs determined by the distance signless Laplacian spectrum. So far the complete multipartite graph is proved to be determined by the distance spectrum. Some graphs with small diameters they are proved to be determined by the distance spectrum, and also the path complement of the path they are proved. And also in recent years co-spectrality of graphs is also studied. Co-spectrality means how far the graph G is different from the other graphs with respect to the spectrum. So that's also studied in recent days. So that's all about that's all I want to say in this talk. So these are the references. So you can find plenty of papers on this topic. So if you just look into the citations for the survey articles you can get to all the papers. So there are more than 350 citations for the survey articles. So I think these two papers initially you need to go through if you are looking for this. You will find more information on this topic.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Rakshit, for the interesting talk. Thank you very much. Yeah. Audience, if you have any question, you can ask me.
Yes, sir, I have one doubt, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you know that switching equivalent graphs are post-spectral with respect to Seidel matrix.
Silence my question.
No, with respect to Seidel matrix.
Yeah.
J minus I minus 2a.
Okay.
And we know that also switching preserves the post-spectral property with respect to Seidel matrix.
Yeah.
So my question is, does the concept of switching exist if we consider adjacency or Laplacian or Sandler's Laplacian matrix?
That I don't know about that. See, with respect to, I think we can find it with respect to this skew matrix, skew symmetric matrix.
No, actually Seidel matrix is symmetric matrix.
Okay.
Which
Yeah,
is
I don't
defined
know.
by, actually which is defined by J minus I minus 2a, where J is the adjacency matrix and J is follow-on matrix, I is the identity matrix. So that is, I also don't know whether switching exists in case of adjacency matrix.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
No, sir. Like, why the eigenvector corresponds to the eigenvalue 2 particularly marked on the diagram? Like, earlier I asked you a question, right? Like, is it important? In some sense, it is important. Like,
No, I just took it for the figure. They have mentioned that because the year,
yes.
yeah, it's not necessary. It's not. It's not.
Okay.
Because
So,
that implies that it's of the largest eigenvalue is 2.
okay. So, okay. For me, like immediately it is not clear why the corresponding vector is eigenvector corresponds to the eigenvalue 2.
Yeah,
But
actually,
this is
you can see that this is co-spectral with C4 union at the path.
okay. That way, that
Yeah.
okay. But this is this is a D type affine diplet diagram, and this labels has some interpretation in the clear. So maybe
Okay.
some connection spectrum connection.
No, yeah, no.
But I think there is some papers where they studied the connection between adjacency spectrum and Dingin diagrams properties. Maybe there is something more regarding this.
Okay.
Is there any similar
hello.
kind work on the energy?
Sir?
Is there any similar kind work on energy, like which graphs are determined by their energy?
Yeah, you can see that. So some of the recent studies are order energetic graphs, which graphs energy is equal to the number of vertices. Energy equal to the order of the graph. Energy equal to 2 times the size of the graph. So that work recently you can find it.
Okay.
That's also interesting if you try to classify graphs with some specific energy.
Okay.
As in recent papers, you can find it on order energetic graph.
Also in the present screen, whatever diagrams are shown, they are all affected.
Okay.
So there seems to be some connection.
Okay, I don't know.
Diagrams and perspective.
Yeah.
Hello, Rakshit.
Yes, sir.
That kite, you just show me that kite graph.
Yeah.
Uh, Okay, means that part it should be complete graph or for this particular graph only?
Yeah, this has to be a complete graph.
Okay. So for complete graph, we are attaching one path.
Yeah. So if it's for a cycle, it is to be a logical graph.
Okay.
Okay. Are there other questions, audience? Okay, if not, let's thank Dr. Rakshit for his interesting talk. Thank you, Rakshit.
Right.
Yeah.